Islam, and welcome to Moor's Heritage and History School, Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita L., along with my co-host, Ms. Raheem Alistair.
Peace and love, Moors, everyone worldwide. Islam and Eid, peace and love. Thankful to be here tonight. Wow.
Yes. And Rosemary Day.
Islam, peace and love to all.
Islam, peace and love.
And last but not least, Cujo. Hold on a minute, Cujo. Something's going on with my computer. Cujo, Eyes Wide Open.
Islam, peace and love. MHHS family. All the Moors everywhere.
Moor. Indeed. All is well. Great presentation tonight. Definitely want to say that about you first and foremost.
Give thanks, Moor. Give thanks.
Yes. You know, let me just, I'm not even going to try to get it. I need to follow the format, even though I am so excited about the topic of tonight's broadcast. I'm going to follow the format and just, first of all, let all of our internet listeners know the chat room is open. Big shout out to our family listening over in Japan, Great Britain, South Africa, the Netherlands, Islam Alba said, Islam to you, Japan, the Philippines, as well as Mexico, well, I should say North America, family out in Mexico, Venezuela, Brazil, Cuba, and family we have yet to connect with, Islam, and thank you so much for joining us today. Big shout out to our callers. Thank you for calling in every week, filling up the phone lines before the show even starts. Islam. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. Every week, what we do is we make a public announcement of those Moors that have been kidnapped and are being held hostage. They have been kidnapped by employees of these various county corporations that we have been mentally conditioned through their institutions of indoctrination to believe are institutions of learning or school, when they are in fact just mentally conditioning us to misinformation and false information. We have been mentally conditioned to believe that county, city, town, township, boroughs are government when they are in fact corporations. The very thing that the American Constitution was written to keep in check and protect the people and their liberties from. We have Moors that are literally being kidnapped off of the street and from inside of their home, and they are being held for income, a demand of income, or a fraudulent claim and collection by the county, city, town, township, borough corporation. And if anyone is in doubt as to if that is in fact true, ask yourself one question first, and you can research it. Ask the question and research it. What service or product does any county, city, town, township, borough provide? Now remember, as a corporation, offering a product or service, it cannot be compelled. That's a violation of your First Amendment right, free of providing. You will find the answer or a clue as to the fraud, right? And then do the appropriate research. So what we do is we make a public announcement of the Moors by appellation, and then we also provide the county, city, town, township, borough that, that the employee of such has kidnapped, and If we don't have that, we just leave it blank and we just apply the union state that is in purview of these corporations and are bound and obligated to protect the people from per the American Constitution, is being protecting the people from any domestic or foreign invasion. They are grossly lacking of their duty. So we start out with our sister Akari Bay, kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee. Daoud Il and Amir Muslimin Il under the purview, Daoud Il under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Il, Kusuz Ra Kush Bay under the purview of Missouri, Asar Fatah Amin Ra Bay under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Taylor Il, Terry Thorne Bay, Jamie Kyle Brooks Bay, Joseph Conade Il, Kushamir Bunch Il, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yasin Khalik Alamin Il, and Michael Curry Bay, all being held under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crystal Il under the purview of New Jersey, and Messiah Aziz Il and Crystal Il, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Ms. Did you hear anything about Patricia Bay's baby? Was the baby released or liberated as well as the mother, or just the mother?
Yes, I'm not certain yet as to the baby, but I'm sure that if the mother is not home, she will be home very soon. So I just wanted to add that on. Part of me still pending on the affirmation, but it is something that is in work for sure.
All right, that's great. So, baby, Patricia Bay's baby, hopefully shortly will be liberated from captive, or is that the right word? From being captive, being held captive. That's a wonderful thing. And then we have Malik Ilzay. All three of these, Malik, I believe, is still being held hostage by the Atlantic Corporation. Patricia Bay and her infant baby were being held, and Patricia has been liberated, and her infant baby, we're still waiting on word of both. Got kidnapped by Atlantic County under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge John Fisher Il and Marquis Savion Il under the purview of Indiana. Solomon Ilbay and Mumi Abu Bay under the purview of Texas. William Barrett Il under the purview of Virginia. Bomani Abidwil Il, kidnapped by Chesapeake Corporation under the purview of Virginia. Chere Bay under the purview of West Virginia. Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California. Victor Eduardo Avaya Juarez Il, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia. And Daniel Napier Cox Il, kidnapped through a joint venture between Allegheny and Pittsburgh Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania. All right, that is it for Moors that have been kidnapped and are being held hostage. If you have a family member or know of someone who has been kidnapped and you would like them to be added to this weekly announcement, send their pre-national appellation along with the county corporation that kidnapped them and the union state that is in purview to MHHS-Eyes Wide Open at gmail.com, and in the subject line put kidnapped Moor. All right, so I think that's everything. I got to say, everybody get out your Black Law 4th edition dictionary. This is going to be, I think, an interesting discussion. Tonight's broadcast is entitled Listen and What is What. We can't say it enough. Prophet Noble Drew Ali told us to study, study, study. This is one of the most important things Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, and he said it 3 times. Do you know who you are? Big question mark. Do you know who the modern Europeans, erroneously identified as white people, are. Big, big question mark. When you look back at ancient texts, do you know who you are reading about? Big question mark. It is for this reason that Prophet Nationality said, study, 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 and you have an illustrious history. Do you know it? You know, if I can, from Prophet Nationality, if I can just get you to thinking, you free yourself. How are you going to free yourself if you are not studying and you are not going back and looking into this illustrious history? What exactly does it mean when he says you have an illustrious history? Let me tell you what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean for you to get all up in your ego head and go looking back to see, oh, was I from a family of kings and queens? That's not it. This is really an illustrious history. And if you don't go and make the appropriate checking, you will misidentify yourself not as the nobles that you are, but as the slaves, which, you know, is a challenge that our people seem to consistently have. And it's not by fault. I mean, it's not that it came out of the blue. This was orchestrated. But one of the things that we as Moors got to realize, because I hear a lot of Moors say things like, well, you know, I'm the way I am because of my mother, or I'm the way I am because I've been miseducated for X amount of years. We got to stop using that as excuses. You just, in those two confessions, and they come in different ways, but basically they're saying the same thing. In those two confessions, you just said, I know. I know I am lacking information. So rather than leaning on the fact that, you know, it's because my mother was asleep or because you were miseducated, you need to sit down and do like the Prophet told us to do. Study, study, study. Well, you know, I had a copy of the Magna Charta, and I actually sat down and read it today. And I hear modern Europeans talking about Magna Charta. It's so funny that they make such a big to do. Oh, you know, Magna Charta, that's for us. You are so darn right. But we have Moors that sometimes don't know who is who, what is what, and they think that the Magna Charta was written for Moors. So I'm reading this Magna Charta, and it keeps talking about barons. Baron this, Baron that. Well, you know, the barons got together and they gave this petition to John, and, you know, and in order for any new things to be added, 25 barons got to get together. And I'm like, well, who the heck are these barons? Because, see, when you start reading some of these documents, you got the first thing, you know, it's interesting to read the whole thing. But then after you read it, you have to back up and say, okay, who is who here? I know who John is. Is it John? I know who John is. King John. But who the heck is the baron? Because you can't make any assumptions. You have to know. I went to the Black's Law 4th edition dictionary, and I read the definition of baron. It reads, a lord or nobleman. I can see how you might just leave it at that, but let's look further. It says the most general title of nobility in England. Now, you've got to know that England, well, the nobles in England are referring to the English people, and the English people are hybrids. So that's modern. So I read further, and then it goes a particular degree or title of nobility next to a viscount, earmark viscount. Then it says the lowest title in Great Britain. Okay, so now they just made two distinctions. I hope everyone can hear me well, They just made two distinctions now. They said a lord or nobleman, the most general title of nobility in England. Then it says the lowest title in Great Britain. So I read further. Then it says a judge of the Court of Exchequer, earmark that word, and then it says a freeman, also a vassal, earmark that word, vassal, holding directly from the king, a husband, occurring in this sense in the phrase baron et femme, husband and wife. The term has essentially the same meanings as barrow. So I got to go look up barrow. The definition of barrow reads, in old law, a man, whether slave or free. In later usage, a freeman or freedman, a strong man, a good soldier, a hired soldier, a vassal. Here's the word vassal again. A baron, feudal tenant. Earmark that word feudal. Tenant or client. A man of dignity and rank, a knight. A magnate in the church, a judge in the exchequer. Earmark that word. The firstborn child, a husband. The word is said by Spellman to have been used more frequently in the last sense. So definitely the barons were not the Moors. Most definitely. But then it makes reference to the exchequer. Now, I wanted to give the definition of exchequer because we need to be clear, okay, what is the exchequer? Is that some noble thing or is that a job? Exchequer, that department of the English government which has charge of the collection of the national revenue. The Treasury Department is said to have been so named from the checkered cloth resembling a chessboard, which anciently covered the table there, and on which, when certain of the king's accounts were made up, the sums were marked and scored with counters. All right, so now we know that that's a job. So we ain't talking about no more, noble more there. Then we have this word viscount. So I said, well, let me go look up what is a viscount. And I get into, it reads, a decree of English nobility, next below that of earl, an old title of the sheriff. So that's a questionable title, that's questionable information that we need to look into further. However, then they use this next word. And that's the word I want to talk a little bit about, because that word is vassal. I remember hearing all these Moors talking about, well, you know, because you're a vassal, you're under the jurisdiction of the United States of America. You were converted to a vessel. And most people thought the word that was being used was V-E-S-S. But in reality, what you were saying is V-A-S-S. This is where we really got to study. You just don't want to run behind what anybody is saying, not even anybody on this broadcast. You need to study. You need to look it up. You need to know for yourself. Because when they start talking about, oh, yeah, you know, you're a vassal, you need to know what a vassal is. So the definition of vassal reads, in feudal law, already you ought to know from the word feudal, they ain't talking about Moors, but earmark that word feudal. Feudal law, a feudal tenant or grantee, a feudatory, the holder of a fess on a feudal tenure, and by the obligation of performing feudal services, clearly not a noble Moor. The correlative term was lord. the vassal himself might be lord of some other vassal. In after times, this word was used to signify a species of slave who owed servitude and was in a state of dependency on a superior lord. So now, back in the, 2-3 years ago, when everybody was sending out these documents talking about, well, I'm a vassal, you just said you was a slave. Big error. Noble Moor or proclaimed Moor declared, especially one who's supposed to be clear about his Moorish ancestry and Moorish bloodline, you cannot in the same breath call yourself a slave. Certainly not a vessel. They also mentioned in this definition, I saw this word vassal state, and I thought, oh yeah, well, I might want to we need to know about that as well, because what is a vassal state? It says in international law, states which are supposed to possess only those rights and privileges which have been expressly granted to them, but actually they seem to be well-nigh independent. Egypt was such. I was like, that's quite interesting. Some food for thought. So then I looked up the word feudal. Feudal, pertaining to feud or fee, relating to or growing out of the feudal system or feudal law, having the quality of a feud as distinguished from allodial. So then it talks about feud. I went and looked that word up. You see, this is how study goes. Once you start, you just can continue and continue. Feudal law, an estate and land held of a superior on condition of rendering him services, an inheritance right to the use and occupation of land held on condition of rendering services to the lord or proprietor, who himself retains the property in the land. So definitely, this is not a feudal, what they are doing is they are enforcing feudal law on the American soil, but they don't have a right to do that because they're foreigners. They can't impose feudal law, which is how Great Britain ran their slaves over there. But these slaves now come over here, and they are enforcing English law, which is feudal law, on the Moorish nobles of this land. And then because we don't do proper study, we turn around and call ourselves words like vassal. We got to study. We got to know who is who and what is what, so that we don't, in error, call ourselves something that we can never, ever be. And isn't it interesting that they have a game show called Family Feud, and who is hosting that today but an unconscious Moor? Islam. Islam?
Islam, indeed. You yielding the floor there? Because
yes, okay. Yes, Islam.
All right, Islam, peace and love. Pardon me, just real quick. Happy New Year to all the Moors in the northern hemisphere of planet Earth right now. Whether you're in North America, Great Britain, Northern Asia, whatever. The sun is in our season right now, so I just wanted to start there. I feel good, but I feel like, not even that I feel like, I know that this is a great conversation because there's so much based off of what you've had already said, going into the exchequer and the titles of nobility for barons and just understanding, Moors being Aboriginal, indigenous to the planet Earth, and having certain, different political jurisdictions, like, the barons, the knights, the kings, the queens, bishops, all of that is really forbidden in American law via having those titles of nobility via Article 1, Section 10 of the American Republic Constitution, 1791, forbidding, those titles of nobility. So when you see that, these different positions, how definition of baron corresponds to different things that you see going on in these de facto and European or municipal institutions operating in North America and other places, you can see where it really traces back to. Knowing that Moors were everywhere, first and foremost, I just want to say, in correlation with the emphasis you placed on the definition of baron about it mentioned in England and Great Britain, that there's a difference as far as the territorial jurisdiction goes. Like, going back to, just real quick, volume 1 of C.M. Bay's work, where he goes into the fact that, hold on, not quoted verbatim, it says, the Christian educators have taught that those aforementioned events occurred in England across the great Atlantic Ocean, involving the destruction of the Spanish Armada. Well, during that era, the island of Albine had not been named England. Therefore, there could not have been an English nation on that island, namely Albine. That island was under the rulership of Muslims. Not only that island, but the whole entire chain of land known today as Europe. This is what C.M. Bay was saying. So when it placed the emphasis on in England and in Great Britain, it's kind of the same distinguishment that Moors in North America are going through with distinguishing the U.S. from America. You know what I mean? Like, they're not the same. Just like England and Great Britain is not the same jurisdiction, really. I've shared this thought with you as well, that, I think that being as though Europe is actually Asia, first and foremost, that those modern Europeans who are documented as being, Englishmen and hybrids, that's what they called themselves, basically took the appellation of Moors or Asiatics, which is broken down, if you pay attention in the 101s, as the Asiatics actually being angels, those appellations being interrelated. And I think that the modern hybrids just tried to jack that and call themselves English opposed to angels and whatnot. The land of angels, you also see that in North America with Los Angeles, et cetera, et cetera. But I say that to say this, when you mention the exchequer and those particular titles of, barons, et cetera, being amongst English law, that it's definitely forbidden, but it has a lot to do with the attack on the Aboriginal indigenous people of North America. And anybody that has a Henry Kimball Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, I would suggest that you look up the definition of hell, H-E-L-L, in that law dictionary. Now, remind you, this is divine and national movement. There's been an economic and a divine attack on the Aboriginal indigenous people, just going back to the fact when you mention the exchequer, you mention that department of the English government, which has charge of the collection of national revenue, or the Treasury Department. All of this is interrelated to what the blueprint is of the infrastructure that you see for the IRS, the church service. If you look up the definition of hell in your law dictionary, it says the name formerly given to a place under the exchequer chamber where the king's debtors were confined. All right? So in the Circle 7, just correlating back with this English law and this concept of English spirituality, because it is divine and national, in this attack based off of so-called revenue, so-called, God and the devil, to even see the definition of hell in the law dictionary, and it correlating with the extra and the barons being the extra judges and whatnot. You got to understand how and why Noble Drew Ali was saying this is divine and national, and why it's imperative to declare the free national appellation and religion. Because what they call hell in English law, or with the exchequer or the English Treasury Department, basically translated onto the American continent as human trafficking, for example. You know what I mean? When you talk about the king's debtors and Moors in Canaan land, I'm pretty sure they can relate to this even more, because it was a lot more open with what the modern Europeans calling themselves English were doing on American soil. Blatantly alleged to be part of the British Crown and whatnot, or the English Crown and whatnot. So the attack from the foreign policies operating on, the American soil was divine and national. Like, there was really no concept of hell. Like it was saying in the Circle 7, heaven and hell are not, above or below, but within. These are things that are within. So when you look at this whole revenue operation that was implemented by Englishmen, who really came from Rome and just started trying to take over the Moorish Empire, really. The attack wasn't just national. It was divine and national. They had to take the mentality of creating your own reality away, meaning if, you don't do this, that, and the third, you're going to go to hell, and, you're going to be judged if you don't accept this Christian religion, et cetera, et cetera. And that will be played out by, as you saw in the Spanish Inquisition, et cetera, people being tortured for exercising their liberties because they weren't accustomed to this particular local English way of living, and the concept of hell being basically a jail. You know what I mean? No exaggeration on that. I'm saying again, look at the definition of hell in your law dictionary. It correlates back with the exchequer. So the barons, the esquires, all of these people who, even in today, you see some institutions, they send letters and saying trial court administrators, and then they have ESQ under that, meaning that they're esquires. These are still titles of nobility for Great Britain, which were used by Englishmen on American land. And the Moors of North America and Asia, which they call Europe today, Great Britain, have had customary relationships for centuries, documented fact. And so when you see this economic attack, you know what I mean, on the people right now, it goes back to that exchequer element of the quote-unquote English government, not necessarily the Great Britain government, because it's like today, you go around in the operation of death and destruction in the name of, or the appellation of America, or Al Morocco, or they say we're American troops, et cetera, et cetera. It's a deception because they're not American. Same way they're not British. You know what I mean? They're Englishmen. So we have to be able to refine, where we fit in with world history and what does and does not apply to us Aboriginal people. And that realizing that some of the same conflicts we're going through in the Western Hemisphere, North, South, and also in the Eastern Hemisphere, for Moors waking up there who've already woken up there. From what I understand, the Moorish history is more open over there than anywhere else. But I just wanted to add that on. So the exchequer being has the charge of the collection of national revenue or basically it's the Treasury Department. You see that implemented with the IRS. You know what I mean? It's no different basically than tithes. Like they try to kick people out of church if they don't pay tithes. You know, they try to stop your liberties if you don't pay taxes to, you know, the Inquisition Revenue Service, which they call the Internal Revenue Service now. But all of this is dealing with foreign law. It does not apply, and it's not natural or consistent with American law. And that being said, you know, for now, I would like to yield the floor. Oh, hold on. Before I do that, I just wanted to add on. You mentioned the Magna Carta, and I recall just flashback before I yield the floor. On Sunday, I just want to say thank y'all for the great class, Sister Standing on Law, as usual. But you mentioned the Magna Carta, and you mentioned it again tonight. And something I wanted to add on in correlation with this bridge between American and English law, etc., is the definition of charter. This is out of the Unabridged Dictionary, page 283. And under the definition of charter, it goes into Magna Charta, and it says the Great Charter of the Liberties of England. Magna Charta Libertatum, granted by King John at Runnymede. I remember in the beginning of the Sister Standing of Law, not to flash back, but this is all interrelated. My mother had mentioned Runnymede being over here. And what correlated to me with that is when you look at the Moabite stone, if you look at the inscriptions on, and you can Google that, Moabite stone, if you look at the inscriptions left by Shamash, they look much like the runic alphabet. So I was looking at runic, and it also correlated with the word Runnymede. You know what I mean? And that's where the Magna Charta was signed, et cetera, et cetera. So it correlates. It says, so this was granted by King John at Runnymede, June 15th, 1215. It is held to be the foundation of the personal and political liberties enjoyed by the English people. By the English people, it provided that no free man should be kept under arrest without proper trial, that he should not be convicted save by the judgment of his peers, or in accordance with the law of the land, and that no taxes should be levied except by the common council of the kingdom. Now, this is what caught my eye. It's where it goes on to say the term Magna Charta is now applied to any constitutional guarantee of personal rights or privileges. So, charter being, a piece of paper, and the Magna Charta now being considered, any constitutional guarantee of personal rights and privileges. I was thinking, does that in any way correlate with what we've heard about, the Constitution, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the Declaration of Independence, Articles of Association, all of these really making up the Constitution? Like, are all of these considered Magna Charters? That's what was on my mind based off of that revelation. And again, that was Webster's Unabridged Dictionary, published 1936, definition of charter. So I didn't want to go too long-winded. I want to yield the floor. But that was my opening piece on the subject of, the correlation of Moor's English in the divine and national aspect of our existence, Islam.
Well, you know what? I just want to interject something right here, and we got to keep in mind the date of the Magna Charta. It was 1215. Now, also, and I haven't done me personally, I need to do more research because I know that they're constantly adding, roughly 586 years to the calendar. I think that this Magna Carta date is correct. But if I was to subtract 580 from the 1215, it would take me way before modern Europeans was ever thinking of even having a conversation. It would bring me to 635. I know they wasn't even a speck in anybody's eye back in 6, so the date 1215 could very well be correct. But remember, also in around 12, 13, 14, 15, they also had the secret treaty of Verona, where they said that some of the things that was specified in this Magna Charta would never come to life, no matter who signed it. And it's interesting because in one of the books that I was researching, trying to find, what was the climate around 1215, I found this little blurb. I'm just going to read it a little bit because I'm not going to read a lot of it. But this thing here, it reads, the explanation is offered by Edmund Burke, who shrewdly says of John that without questioning any part of the terms of a treaty which he intended to observe in none, he agreed to everything the barons, remember barons is modern Europeans, thought fit to ask, hoping that the exorbitancy of their demands would justify in the eyes of the world the breach of his promises. As a matter of fact, John did not keep his pledges made in Magna Charta and never intended to do so. The moment the charter was granted, those who had united to obtain it fell into conflicting groups, and some even took the side of the king. For 2 months following the granting of the charter, various steps were taken that looked toward peace and reconciliation between the king, the barons, and the people. August 16 was fixed as the date when the reconciliation was to be completed. The day came, but the king failed to appear to meet the bishops and the barons. He insisted that he dare not trust himself within reach of their armed forces. The barons on their side claimed that the king had been false to his promises, and under the terms of the charter itself, they declared war upon him. Pope Innocent III formally annulled the charter and excommunicated the king's enemies and all disturbers of the peace. So, he never intended to honor the Magna Charta, which is consistent with how they looked at the modern Europeans. It's also consistent with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. The only reason that he came to the table to even make the appearance of signing the Magna Carta and adhering to it was to see who was initiating this amongst the slaves and take care of them.
Yeah, go ahead. I wanted to add something when you're done.
So, that's just that. Look, now we got to remember John, Henry, all of them was Moors. The whole Treaty of Verona, that was written by Moors. The fight, the only reason that the Moorish family was divided was because they wanted to keep the one commodity a commodity, and that is the modern Europeans. That's why the Treaty of Verona was written. Islam.
Islam. I just wanted to say about with the dates, you're right. I mean, we know that calendars are just written calendars in different periods. We have proof positive of at least 2 when you're dealing with, for instance, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Clearly, it's signed 1787 on one side and 1200 on the other. So this is where we get our calculations, or where we can be sure of certain calculations, which is an approximation of 580 years. Give or take 3 years when you really bring it down, because it took that long for everything to, like there was no mail where it came overnight or faxed or whatever. It took that long to get, everything ratified is the word we'll use, and everybody to sign whatever. But so when you're talking about that 580, 1215 jives right up with what you're saying with the Verona. I don't know that the 1215 is really that it might really have been from that calendar 1215. Sometimes thereafter. Remember, they added to the calendar that we know was existing after they came into some sort of semblance of order. So when you look at that 1215, that does in fact jive up. But when you look at 1215 and do the math, it's only a couple hundred years ago. Like when we look at the fact that we're at 1935 based on the 580, it's only been a couple hundred years.
That's right. That's right.
So no matter what the numbers say, they all come out to only a few hundred years, And another thing I thought interesting, you're talking 1215, and we're talking 2015 right now. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So in the electrifying age of information, right? Look at those numbers. And also, the Magna Charta means, in their words, the magnificent charter. Or Magna Carta means magnificent charter. It was magnificent to them. But now, but when you really look and read it, it's so clear that they're just taking some sort of not control, but like a tenant landlord agreement to existing buildings, palaces, land, and stuff like that. They're not in there saying they own jack. That's where the whole feudal system and the tenant landlord crap came from. You know what I'm saying? Because they were working. If you really read it, they were working off to really like sharecropping in a way.
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Right, exactly. So I just wanted to bring that to mind. Islam.
Yes, Islam.
And what I wanted to add too is that means that in other words, the Magna Carta makes it real clear to anybody who reads it that they didn't have anything. They were trying to get in a position just to be a tenant, or work it off. It was already existing and not by their hands, not their stuff. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Islam. Before Cool Joe go in, I just want to add one more thing on. Going back to Great Britain, which they called England, later on English. You look at page 440 of Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 2. I just wanted to emphasize this message here. It says, because we know that English is modern, but you have Saxons, and then you have Anglo-Saxons. You have Moors of Saxony, right? And this particular reference correlated with this. It says, again, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 2, page 440, says, it must be remembered that to the early authors, Saxons were known as Saracens. If those early Saxons were white Huns, quote unquote, then of course they were white Saracens. Now remember, white and black were not necessarily nationalities, but statuses. It says, still it is curious to notice that although the traditional Saracen is sometimes represented as a white man, yet the word is much more frequently used as a synonym for Moor, M-O-O-R. I just wanted to add that on, and it goes on to say, it is certain that the early Saxons were associated with the dark races, whatever their own complexion may have been. So they were all Moors in Great Britain, etc. Prior to English invasion and the distinguishment between Saxons and Anglo-Saxons, excuse me. Islam. That I yield the floor.
Islam. And also that when we look at the timeline from that period of time to where we are today, we can take into consideration the statement of Noble Drew Ali saying that he's going to stop the European from thinking, because everything that they're doing right now is retro. Like they haven't created anything in a few hundred years. They keep repeating the same thing. You know what I mean? You look at every shoe that they put out, it's the same shoe of last year with a blue lace instead of red lace. Or you look at all the food that they're putting out, it's, you know, something with a new label, but it's the same product. You look at items that they produce, it's, you know, new and improved, but it's not really new if it's improved.
Right.
It's something that they're just remaking. So we're at that, you know, we're in that place right now that was prophesied that we were going to be. The European has officially stopped thinking. They are in retro right now. Our issue is that we're following them in retro. Opposed to, you know, doing like when we look at Noble Drew Ali saying that, you know, we're gonna leave the European here long enough to teach you government, so then you're supposed to go on from what you learn from the European and move forward with, you know, your melon activated, pineal activated, all your circuitry running right in your brain. We'll take things further than they will ever take it, even in our dumb state. But if we have this mentality that, you know, it's like I was speaking with somebody about, you know, yeah, Jay-Z could drop as much information as he wants, but if he's calling his album Magna Carta, it defeats the purpose of all the information he's dropping in his album. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, it's you know, Beyonce's going to go out there and, fight the power and, you know, rep Black Panthers, but if she's wearing Daisy Dukes, how is that beneficial? How is that making us progress? You know what I mean? And again, if we look at, you know, like Noble Drew, there's specific oral statements that have to do with our relationship with the European and the Europeans' relationship to America. And majority of those things are speaking from the perspective of the Moors being the ones that's in control again. And the European now has to humble themselves. You know, and that was from back then. So, you know, we're supposed to be ahead. You know what I mean? We were supposed to enforce the Constitution from back then to now. If these individuals who claim that they had, you know, intellectual power as so-called black people, if they did their job of enforcing the Constitution, even as blacks or whatever, we would be a little further than where we are today as a whole, because it was supposed to be implemented even in the mind state of black that you enforce the Constitution. That's not our document. The only reason we're doing it is to keep these Europeans at bay, literally the 50 colonies and not coming into the mainland. Keep them at bay. Keep them where the ships dock at. By enforcing the things that were laid down to keep them not violating certain things. But it's like you say, you give them a yard and they take 500 feet, and then you're complaining because you gave them a yard. Why do you even give them the yard in the first place? Right? So, and then when we look, like with the references that Brother Miz is bringing up, when you go read Ancient and Modern Brits and those books, Stanley Lane Poole and all that, they'll tell you that we ruled Europe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And again, that everything that these people created is some type of plagiarism of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't create anything on their own. They didn't create anything. There's nothing that they created that they can say, this is ours, we created it. Nothing. Everything came from some other source or multiple sources that they compiled and said, yeah, now this is our stuff. And then everybody went with the fact that, oh yeah, they said that's theirs, okay, so then let's just run with them because, they did something. When they didn't do nothing, they just copied and hit the original version, or burn a copy and hide the original in their vault or whatever, so nobody else has access to where they got their stuff from. But like the forces say, truth is gonna be revealed. You can't keep stuff in the dark forever. Eventually, it's gonna come out. No matter what you try to keep in the dark, eventually it's gonna come out. And we're in that time right now where everything is coming out, which is why they're in the position that they're in, where they're kind of giving it up. They can't openly say that it's over. You know what I mean? Here's the keys to all the lodges, Asiatics, because we can't do anything with this information anymore because it's useless to us, because we've reached our ceiling. We can't take this any further. You can't. Eventually, people are going to say, "Hold on a second. The last 5 Jordans that they came out with were the same Jordans from 1997 or whatever." Eventually, people are going to get game to what's going on. Like they can't. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time forever. Eventually, gigs are going to be up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we're at that place right now where the gig's up. And they're just trying to hold on by a fingernail to, fool as much people as they could fool, use their little black COINTELPRO, whoever, leaders or whatever, to try to keep these people not recognizing that, we're living in a perpetual cycle of repetition and nothing's progressing. And like Juali said, the wheels have stopped turning. And when they start going again, it's going to be in the Asiatics' favor. But are the Asiatics going to be ready when the wheels start turning again? And they better be ready for when the wheels start turning again, because if the Asiatics aren't ready, don't forget that Asiatics aren't only dark-skinned people. Asiatics are also Manchurians and Hindustanis and Ceylonese and all these people who they're ready to jump into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a new slave master to worry about. You're worrying about some European. When Chinese turn your slave master, you're going to know a slave master is when those guys are your slave master. You think Europeans bad? Wait till some of these rat-eating people and grasshopper-eating people start being your slave master. You'll wish that the European was your slave master then.
Yeah, because one of the big things about the Chinese and the Japanese is they are all about the ancients and the history, and every year they acknowledge us, and they know that we are their ancestors. They have no place for people without a nationality.
Yep, no place. No place.
Real talk.
Straight.
And you could walk into some Chinese stores today, and they usually have an image of a Moor, right in the lobby when you walk in the vestibule.
Yeah.
they'll have it right there. You know what I mean? And you ask them about it, and they be like, "Oh yeah, that's a god of good fortune." That's what they'll say.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But it's definitely apotheosis of the Moorish image. You know what I mean? They do that. Just like the Pope has his apotheosis with the Moorish Madonna. They show that demonstration. They recognize the divinity. So all of those things, they're definitely about that. You know what I mean? And it's crazy now because, like, you were talking about us being behind, you know what I mean? Or, excuse me, the Europeans being behind and or being in retrograde because they're stuck. Certain Europeans are stuck on the old way where we're in the new age now. You know what I mean? Like the meeting of the seven sages already happened. Everybody thought the end of the world type of thing, but that was the alignment of the planets, 2012, 13, and we're still in the remnants, Gregorian calendar. You know what I mean? And that being the case, you know, looking forward, there's nations all over the planet that are dealing with sciences that we are not collectively dealing with on an independent level yet. You know what I mean? Because, you know, 3-4 years ago, I would say this sounds crazy, but they're dealing with technology now, and you could just Google it. They have a corporation called Boston Dynamics, and they're building all types of, you know, robots and, you know, mechanical devices that, you know, record and do certain tasks. Some have the form of humans, dogs, etc. I know it sounds crazy, but looking at the future, this war or civil war that seems to be at hand, if it was ever to really break out, like, it wouldn't even be fair because of, you wouldn't even be going against people. You're going against robots that they're trying to give autonomous thought waves or electromagnetic waves to act with. I'm just saying, looking at the future, we have to smarten up a little bit as far as how we fortify ourselves, though the blueprint was laid. They're dealing with the element of air in the aspect that, you know, some people can't even fathom. But that's a fact. So looking forward, going back to that ancient state of mind, but using, you know, the technology today for what we can do with it, that's also beneficial. I just want to add that on based off of the fact you were talking about certain retrogrades. Looking forward, it's not, you know what I mean? It's a lot that's going on. So I just wanted to put that on and yield the floor, fam.
Islam. Yeah, that's real interesting. And you know what? I just want to. We got about 53 minutes left to the live internet feed. What that means is, those people listening via internet, that feed is going to go down in 53 minutes. If you are able to, you need to call 347-945-5899 so that you can hear the last hour. At 11:30, the internet feed is going to go down. If you're not able to get in prior to 11:30, wait until 12:30, after 12:30, and you can download the show from the archives and listen to the last hour. What we're going to do next is we are going to take some callers. So if we have anyone listening who would like to comment, have a question regarding the broadcast or, you know, something of a similar nature, press 1 on your telephone dial, and we will take the call. Also, let's see. I just wanted to say something regarding the people that is erroneously called Chinese or even Japanese, you got to know that Chinese or China and Japan, these are corporations. The people of that land, you know, they are Manchurian. Those are Moors. So once again, the reason that they are, you know, and then, you know, the Moors, the amalgamated Moors over there that honor their ancestors, us, they know exactly who they are. And they don't try to hide it at all. In fact, they celebrate it every year. I think if I was to dig into my computer somewhere, I would find a 2004 posting of the celebration, but they do it every year. So they're not trying to hide who their ancestors are, where they come from. They know, and they honor that. Really what's happening is everyone around the world is waiting for us to wake up and honor not just our ancestors, but ourselves. And we need to do that. Now, and one last thing on the subject of the robots, the machines. One of the things that really, we need to keep in mind what the prophet said. That's why, it's very important that we read those prophecies and statements, because I don't watch the media because it's controlled by modern Europeans. They're going to put their spin on it because that's what they do. So I don't watch it because I know it's just a bunch of lies. But if you do watch it, it can get you very fearful, and that's the last place you want to be, in fear. So I don't watch it. They're promoting their agenda. I'm clear they're promoting their agenda. What we as Moors need to do is we need to get our television, radio, public, and our newspapers. We got our website. We got that up and running. We're supposed to have our own vehicle of putting forth, the truth as it is. And, and we can do that. We have all the right to do that. So I said that to say this. One of the things that I know, just like looking at, like, for example, Terminator, the movie Terminator. One of the things that I'm very clear about in that, in that movie and movies like it is, and even The Matrix. See, because even in the message in The Matrix is that these machines is trying to take over. However, because they are machines, they have limitations. And for me, when I think about our history, everybody on planet Earth knows wars can fight. It's not even up for debate. That's why modern Europeans always got to come dirty in order to win. That's the only way they can win. So this next transition, it's not about how well we can fight. It is really about us studying and manifesting with our minds and being able to alter things, manifest, alter things as they try to present themselves. And we're supposed to be doing that mentally so that we see we are already changing the future before it even arrives.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're supposed to be that's what we are able to do. We just need to remember, and the only way that we're going to remember is if we study and study and study and study some more. And that's why the prophet said, if you ask me what to study, I will, how does it go? Study, 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 and when you have told me you studied, what to study next, I will tell you to study yourself. Because it's great and fantastic that we study outside of ourselves in terms of the law, because law is just not restricted to the Constitution and case laws. Law is also about your health and your, the law of astrology and astronomy. Everything is law. So we can't just compartmentalize it into, case law this and, Article 6 and 4 and 3 of this. That's a beginning of law, but that's not the end and that's not the all of law. So we have to encompass all that law is. And then we have to go into ourselves, and we've got to start working on ourselves internally, because I don't care who you are, self included, we all have a level of ego that is working against us. And you're never going to be able to manifest peace and harmony and abundance if you have ego anywhere in the vicinity. And it's too much ego going on, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. So this transition that we're going into, it ain't about how well you can fight. It's about how well you have mastered your mind. And it's through that you will be able to, like they showed you in Star Wars, you will have the ability to alter the frequency of machines, because the machine was never there to begin with. It's found. So with that, we're going to take our callers. As I said, if you have a question, comment.
Before you do, I'm going to comment on one thing. Yes. Can you hear me all right? Wait a minute. Maybe. Yes. Okay. Before you do, I just wanted to comment. You said, it's about not winning physically or whatever like that, but it's about the mastering of the mind. You can go back to Goliath and David, right? All right. So he picked up a smooth stone, which means the one that the water has run on it. Water represents knowledge. That's why it's a smooth stone out of the river. And hit right between the pineal gland, right at the pineal gland. That is a signifying to us that it's about opening up our minds, because man is mind. And we really have to recognize that when we perish for a lack of knowledge, that is what is being said. So yeah, that matches that. It's not really about the physical portion. That's a done or physical fighting or whatever like that. And, we also would have to recognize that, I'm trying to get my thought together with what I'm saying, with the opening of our mind and the truth. Remember chapter, I think it's 5 or 4, out of the Secret Teachings of the Brotherhood of the East, it explains about truth coming in, because everyone knows that the truth is the light, the truth is the weapon, the truth is the whole thing. That's the light that brings you out of the dark. And then when they were asked in there, they asked Yahshua, who taught you this? What is the teacher that taught you this? And he said, well, truth has never been shut up. It's always been there. If you just open your mind and let it come in, it'll come in through a crack or a crevice and make yourself at home. So this is the opening up of the mind and having the knowledge, and that's what that significance was with the smooth stone of knowledge, one with knowledge and sitting in the pineal gland. We have to open our minds, and with mind we can accomplish anything. We can do anything, and especially in unity. But I will say, and I heard Kujo mention earlier, he says, look, and if you're still going to be into this slavery mindset, because the prophet said, I come to take you out of your mental slavery, well, if you don't want to honor it, look, this is serious right here. Because even in the Bibliothek, it tells you, honor your mother and father so that your days on this earth plane will be lengthened. If you don't want your nationality, if you don't want your birthright, if you don't want to honor your mothers and fathers, you will remain enslaved. Now, he put something to the light when he said, and when the Chinese or any other person, even though I know Chinese, and when we say Chinese, we do mean corporate, right? Because it's that lower self-activity that's been spread across all four corners of the earth, which is why we have to deal with our higher self, not our lower self, not just us, but everyone. This is why the prophet also said that, nothing's going to get straight until the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice are installed in all of us and in our actions of everyone from all four corners. So if we don't want it, then we remain a mental slave. And, it's like somebody else is going to buy you. Somebody else is going to own you. They don't really own you. It's just that you're a zombie not owning yourself, so you're up for the damn grabs. And that's what's going to happen if you continue to not want to honor self and honor your mothers and fathers. Islam. And I'm saying, why is it so difficult? It's simple, right? Yeah. Go ahead, Ms.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Were you going to say something? I apologize.
Well, no, but I was going to add this. This is the thought that came to mind when you were mentioning a few things. What came to mind is the fact that this is a spiritual fight with all elements involved, and specifically air. But I just recap on this whole conversation, going back to the extra care, hell, etc., and Noble Drew Ali saying we're returning Christianity back to the pale-skinned nations of Europe as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, and going into this transitional state, whereas this warfare that is going on involves the elements, like nature is attacking Europeans, and then you have people who are using the elements to produce things, like the element of air. There's a lot that goes through the air. People don't have to believe in a certain fictitious, quote-unquote, God or whatnot. If you was to believe in anything you couldn't see, it should be air, I would say, because this is one of the elements, and if anybody was to become agnostic, they cannot survive. So we need air to sustain and to live here, and people are using that to produce industry like Wi-Fi, you know what I mean, radio, etc. These are element dealers. And just like they produce industry from the land element, the element of earth, you got flesh industry, plant industry, vegetation, fruits, etc. There's a whole industry off of earth. Then with the water element, you got fish, you got seaweed, you got all types. They sell water itself. This is an industry, you know what I mean, based off of the law of nature that's going on, that they're monopolizing. As far as fire, they sell you electricity. And electricity is basically just cold flame. And that's more science. So you turn on the lights, that's basically cold flame, contained flame. So all of these are elements that just based off of a signal, are controlling or contribute to daily life forms. And there's impulses and electric waves and whatnot that go with that. So if they send images through the TV that are not natural, they're using air and electric. Pardon me if I sound too far out. But all of this still goes back with the psychological attack that was done by the extra care, even starting with the concept of hell being a imaginary place in the mind, like you said, with the fear, all of these things. When you know the elements and what's truly going on right now, you know what I mean, that people who know this are dealing with elements which, as they deem themselves closer to God by using these elements than anybody. We have to get in tune with this wave, you know what I mean? We have to. So I just wanted to say that. And with that, you know what I mean, I encourage, all Moors to go back to that ancient state of mind of their foremothers and forefathers, because it's energy and industry and life form all around us that the Creator constantly gives us. Like I say this, my fault, now yield the floor, but just based off the element of air and wind alone, the Mother Nature knocked down a lot of trees on the East Coast back in 2013, to present day. And there's just so much industry, so much things we could do with wood alone. It's like just being in tune with nothing ever dies, everything has a use. I don't know. Just all life is interrelated. And with that being said, you see people using the elements for industry.
Yeah. You know what? I just want to add this too. On the site, this is what it's reminded me of when you were talking about the air. Check this out. On the site, on the front page, we have what we call the windswept message when the Pope came here, and they had an article in the paper, and they called it the Pope was windswept because his collar came up. But anyway, on that, at the bottom of it, because it was about the wind blowing and the manner in which it took form, shape against him or on him. But if we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, princes of the air. And that's from St. Paul. So that was interesting. And also, Erykah Badu always said it in her song. She said, if it's all in the air, it's all on your mind. If it's all on your mind, it's all in the air. You know what I mean? And it's not. That's the in this electrifying age of information and in any matter of communication, you're right. It is through the air, all of it, every bit of it. Islam.
Islam. You know, I when you was talking this, what came to mind is this movie, and I know a lot of people probably maybe didn't watch it, maybe thought it was ridiculous or what, I don't know, but I'm sure that there is a message in there somewhere. But I remember there's this movie called The Fifth Element. Did you remember that movie? When you was talking, it came to my mind because they show you all the four elements of the earth, and a lot of times we overlook that we're the fifth. We're a combination of all four of the elements. So we're like the fifth element, all combined, so to speak. But when you was talking, that movie came to my mind, so I had to say something. People should check it out because I'm sure there's a message in there.
But it is. But hold on, let's talk about that real quick before we open up the lines. Real quick, in that movie, they had the redhead Lilu sleep in the tube as if she was some sort of alien, right? And she was peaceful. Everything was good. But when they took the picture, because she was sleeping, when they took the picture, the magnesium from the camera woke her up. It pulled on you could see that the magnesium yanked on her spirit and woke her up, resurrected her from prostration, you know what I mean, to existing on a 90-degree angle. She woke straight up. It's the element of air. I'll tell you this, just real brief. From that movie, when we went to so-called Pittsburgh, there was this tall castle. And in there was like it was a picture of a Moor, and there was like drawers of burnt ashes. Like, it had to be like 15 to 23 of them maybe. There was just a bunch of drawers, had Moorish history in there. Well, from that movie, I was like, I'm definitely not taking a picture of these drawers because I felt the energy in the room. One of the people I was with had to walk out of the room because they couldn't stand the energy. And I was like, damn. But that just went to show that it's all in the air, like you said. You know what I mean? Everything exists in air. Ether is upper air. We're here in Asia, which you say is the lower realm. And as above, so below. You know, we can't exist without that element here. And it exists everywhere. So I would say, you know, if you need a testament, like I told the brethren who called in a couple of weeks ago, you know, about him going to church, and I said, well, if you go to church, however far the distance is, whether it be a block, miles, or whatever, if you go to church and you don't find what you call God on your way, you're looking in the wrong places. Because, no, real fact, because you can see the wind blow the trees, you know what I mean? No question, though you don't see the wind, it's there. So I think removing that mystery of the economic attack, what else is called is, in the nigger industry book, it's referred to as a psychic attack as well, just dealing with the elements. So when you see those 4 quadrants also dealing with the circle 7, you better know, you know what I mean, what time it is. You know what I mean? Like, this is not, it's nothing slight. It's the basis of all energy, economy, ecosystem, and what they call today economics. You know, they're into extracting from the products of nature and making industries. You got more restaurants selling carcasses and flesh and fish. And, you know, you go to Asian markets, they got it all. They got the seaweed, they got the herbal teas, they got the fish, if you want flesh, everything, you know what I mean, ducks, everything. But just to know that celestial flow, that vibration, it definitely takes, like you said, as far as health, the right vibration, energy, diet, etc. And I'm definitely taking mine a lot more serious now in doing that. These are just certain things that are on my mind, and just realizing, you know what I mean, that, wow, the health is in nature. You know, not that we didn't know that. And all these simple things, even a Moor's existence, they found ways to monopolize. You know, they got the human trafficking, which in their English law, what we call jails, they call hell. It's documented fact. The revenue service, you know what I mean, where they actually, because again, the exchequer goes back to the English treasury. So they're taxing the fruits of your natural energy and labor, which is intangible, but they found a way to try to monopolize even that intangible energy. So it is a divine, it is a spiritual attack, you know what I mean, by those who know what it is, and in the lack of knowledge by those who don't, to hurt us all in that aspect. But knowing these just simple fundamental things, which again we were supposed to learn in elementary school, we would have been way far beyond. And we would be dealing with how to manifest, you know, these different robots, or deprogram them with, you know, your natural energy and things of that nature. So that, you know, I respectively yield the floor. Islam.
Islam. All right. You know, another movie that reminded me of, I hate that movie you sent me. Yes.
Which one?
With the Passage of Egypt, where the European daughter went in the cave and couldn't take the sound.
Yes, let's talk about it. That's the power of arrogance. You know what I mean? Because it was the echo. First of all, the European didn't even really belong there. The natural energy was saying, you're not welcome. Basically, that's what that was. So when the Aboriginal's voice or words or God or jurisdiction, right, words echoed in the halls of the earth, the European who was in the midst of that energy vibration couldn't even stand it to the point where later on she was in the hospital and just was bleeding. You know what I mean? All from the echo of a vibration of an Asiatic or Moor. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing happened with her mother, the European mother. It was telling you something there, because when she tried to go into one of those Asiatic caves or the Ajanta caves, she couldn't stand the vibration of the voice or the usage from an aboriginal of the element of air combined with earth in the cave, which echoed. And the reverberations the Europeans could not sustain or stand. They got sick. So it's crazy because they ended up accusing the brother of murder when it wasn't. It was just they were somewhere they didn't belong, and that's how that actually turned out. But, yeah, for sure, that movie is a classic. Passage to India.
Yeah.
Highly suggested for any more to watch from beginning to end. You know what I mean?
Yes. All right. So just a little bit of additional information there. But with that, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the line, and we're going to begin to take some callers. All righty. So let me see. Where was I now? All right. We got caller 914-316. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexham.
My appellation is Hadia Bay at Northwestern Mexham near the corporate state of Pennsylvania.
Peace and love.
Islam, peace and love. I just wanted to share an experience that I had this week on social media in reference to your own Moors putting you back into slavery. Again, as Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, that study is very important. So I witnessed Dirty Moor, I would say, basically saying that they couldn't believe that Moors were still following this crap, was his exact words, with as far as not obtaining the driver's license or applying for a membership with the DMV. He said to me that traveling can be done by foot or on bike or by airplane, and the DMV is there to ensure that people are, quote-unquote, driving safely. And instead of me engaging this brother and, going on and on, he called me anarchist and anti-government. When I'm far from anti-government, I just believe that, if this brother had studied more, he would understand what he was saying. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the DMV a corporation also?
Agency.
Yeah.
As a matter of absolutely, it's an agency. I just got to say this. It was funny. I don't know if this is how he meant it, but when he said traveling can be done by foot or what have you, so what is he saying? That we could travel by foot, but we got to go through an agency, that is, in order to travel by any other mode of transportation. Now, the case law says that you travel by any mode of conveyance you wish to. But he is saying, I guess he's saying, well, you Moors can walk, but you can't navigate in any other conveyance.
You can't travel in any other mode. So who made that?
Right.
But he's saying without
Right.
the DMV. So look, the DMV is an agency, but whether it was an agency, not an agency, that's beside the point. This man is propping up their agency designed to rape finance to do something that you have the right to do. So whether it was an agency or not an agency, he doesn't get that you have a right to try. It's a personal liberty, and you have a right to do it without restraint and being molested by people who are, in fact, an agency and not government, certainly not your government, and they are not government because they are policy enforcers, which we call police, and the word police ain't even in the Constitution. And then when you look up what a policy, what a policeman is, case law says, oh, those policemen, They're there to protect the corporations. They're not there to and arrest code breakers, which means that's not law. They're not there to protect you. And then this guy you talk to who's supposed to be more is saying, all right, well, those guys that aren't there to protect you, they're just there to rape your finances. Yeah, go support them. And if you can't do that, you need to walk and don't travel. Come on.
Right. I mean, I was anarchist. I mean, seriously. He's like, I'm going to push the world into anarchy, and I'm anti-government. When I'm far from anti-government, I just feel like if you're going to be a Moor, be correct. You know what I'm saying? Be correct. I mean, and I'm not going to sit here and say I know everything, because I don't. Believe me, I'm still studying myself. But at the end of the day, I know enough to know not to walk myself down to the Department of Motor Vehicles or whatever they want to call themselves in whatever state or wherever they are and say, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen. First of all, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Number one. This same brother had the nerve to post something stating that, oh, you need to go do this application with the temple. So I pulled the application. And on this application, the first thing it asks is, are you a U.S. citizen? Apparently something is wrong there. Your information is wrong. So I just had to share that because I just found it so funny that you can bash your own brothers and sisters when your information is incorrect.
Yeah.
You're going to put your own people back in slavery. You talking about us. We're the ones who's trying to liberate our people. We the ones trying to raise our children to know who they are. And you sitting here telling me to go to some place and give them all this old information that you're not even supposed to use anyway. To put yourself right back in the situation you was before you got your information. You got to be right and exact. Right. And these people are not right and exact.
And look, if it wasn't for the fact that they want to beat you in your head because you don't have that instrument that you do not need, that is not meant for people who are traveling. That's another thing. When you delve into what it is, what it's for people doing commerce, making finance, counting cargo, passengers, etc. like that. It's not even meant for that. So if it wasn't for the fact that these policy enforcers that they are calling their government, these people that you were talking to, they're supposed to be Moors, that they're calling them their government and they're not, if it wasn't for the fact that they're beating you upside your head, dragging you out the car and arresting you for not having the licensed instrument that they established that ain't got jack to do with you, then we wouldn't even be having this problem. Why doesn't he address that?
Not only that, this is the same so-called Moor who's talking about voting.
Oh, well, you already know. He don't know. He's on the wrong team and don't know it.
Yeah, and
that's all. That's what that's about.
That's crazy.
And it's sad because, there are people who are fresh starting to learning about who Moors are and about our history. And this is going to deter them from finding out the right information, which is the reason why they say be active Moors and not passive Moors. Because if you have more active Moors with the right information.
And this is also why the prophet said study, 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 because some of your own wearing turbans and fez will put you back in slavery if you don't study, 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 and know. That's why study. I mean, our challenge as a people is that we are like on the lookout for the pale complexion modern European. We're all looking. We're on guard for them, but we're wide open for some of our own.
The still exists.
And I'm not saying we should distrust our family, but the bottom line is this: I don't care where the information is coming from. You need to do your due diligence and study it, and stop jumping onto it and running with it. You need to sit down. You need to take your sweet time, and you need to study whatever has been presented to you, because sometimes it ain't all that. but it will give you a comprehension of, how these modern Europeans will try to get you into some sort of a contract. Really, it's not a contract, because if they don't disclose it, it's not a contract. But what they will do is they know, because they have miseducated us, we're lacking information grossly, and sometimes we don't even have the wherewithal to do the appropriate mental analysis. They know they can get us quite easily. So they will throw things out there, as they have done, because they know that there's going to be a Moor somewhere who gobbles it up and then spreads it amongst his inner circle, outer circle, don't even do no researching, didn't come together and say, hey, man, let's tear this apart and analyze it. I mean, look, we looked at the Articles of Association and the Declaration of Independence, which is not for Moors, but we studied it and analyzed it, because we need to know, how does it fit into the scheme of things. You can't just grab things and run with it, and then the one thing that really is annoying and shows a lot of lack of family unity is when you don't do the due diligence, but you want to come back and blame, so-and-so told me to do it. Well, did you study? No. But you still going to blame who you heard it from? And one of the things that ticks me off so much is that our people, and I know it's because we're twisted, we got to stop leaning on that crutch. We don't do that to modern Europeans. We'll never do that to modern Europeans. But we'll come and do that to our own family that's like lacking so many resources, but trying nonetheless to help uplift on humanity. We can't get on board and help. We got to nitpick and nitpick. Never do we go to the modern Europeans and, hold them accountable, take them to task. We don't do that. We need to examine why we don't do that. Really.
I agree. I totally agree. I just want to thank you guys so much. I've learned so much through you guys, and I'm going to continue studying and continue learning. And with that, I yield the floor. Islam, and peace and love.
Islam. Peace and love. Thank you so much for that.
I just wanted to add one thing on, because I realize there's a lot of Moors giving up, losing hope. You know what I mean? And the one thing is now that, for the most part, the Aboriginals have been in battle, or technically a civil war, because civil wars aren't always physical, but there's been a civil war going on. And some Moors are like ready to throw in the towel with this traveling situation. And I'm looking at it like, listen, there's been a lot of Moors who stood up for this right, you know what I mean, this birthright, divine and national, for years now. And again, when you plant a seed, you can't expect its full potential to manifest, within a short time span. Trees, they grow in due time. Not that this right is new, but in this age of what they are calling the 21st century, what they're calling, or what's being called the 21st century, it's at an all-time high of more standing up for their rights in this time, in these days. And I just want to say, Moors, even Europeans who stood up for the right to travel, the work that you have been doing is causing friction right now as we speak, to whereas they're trying to declare the quote-unquote driver's license instruments themselves void and take over with another de facto corporate instrument. So the driver's license itself right now is in question between Moors and the U.S. Corporation as we speak. So You know what I mean? I'm not saying you don't have free will. Do what you do. But those who are steadfast, they'll ride this wave out. And if they try to take over with a U.S. identity scanning card and all of that, then you know things are going back full surface or full cipher back to the time and the climate of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship as far as Moors and Europeans, because that treaty was made between Moors and the Europeans who wrecked the United States of America Corporation. So the fight is not going to be with, these states anymore in a minute. It's going to be with, and it's really not. It's with both in the aspect, but love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is paramount. I'm not promoting violence, but what I'm saying is that the fight is going to be back on treaty terms on the face of things in a minute with this new ID Act or Real ID Act in the laboratory amongst themselves right now, and Moors laying down and declaring and proclaiming their nationality in these days and ages, because there's been generations skipped. Moors have always survived through, but populace, for the most part, was claiming to be black. There's a lot more now declaring and proclaiming their Moorish nationality. And I just, suggest do what you have to do, but continue to be yourselves, man. Islam. I yield the floor.
Islam. All right. We have callers.
I just have to say Islam to that because, sometimes you do feel like you want to pull the towel in or you may feel that way or whatever, but really, I think you put it very well, man. It's almost over, and the Prophet told us it's all going to be in our hands. So,
yeah.
That's
why it's very imperative, for Moors, to study. It's really imperative for the Moors to study because it is in the studying that you're going to get that armor, that inner armor built up, because you're going to need it, because there's going to be a lot of stuff going down. And really, if you're not studying, you're not going to be able to see, much less discern the signs and the symbols. It's going to go right over your head. You're going to miss it. Because you haven't taken the time to study. I can't say it enough. Look, when I first started really getting it, not just the Moorish, this was way before the Moorish information. When I started getting into, I actually started by reading the Bible because people was always quoting it to me, and I got tired of it, and I wanted to see if I would come to the same conclusion that they did. I didn't. So from reading the Bible, I moved through a lot of different philosophies into metaphysics. And, metaphysics, encompasses like reincarnation, manifestation, the principle of forgiveness. It ain't about the other person, it's really about you. But when you start studying out, if you don't have like a 360-degree turning of your head that unbalances you, and it's going to take you some time to rebalance, because there's a shift that goes on inside of you. And when that shift takes place, it's going to take you a minute to organize everything, adjust to that shift. And when it happens to me the first time, I was like, okay, I made it through. I'm good. I learned everything. I'm good. Until it happened again. And then I realized, okay, so this is a continuous shifting that's going to be going on. As long as you're studying, it's going to be a continuous shifting. And so the shift will never, ever take place until you start studying. All right? So I listen, and I listen because you can hear it when people talk. Did they go through the shift? Nope. They still gearing up to study. They gearing up to study. They haven't even gotten to the shift. All right? And that's all right. But look, I understand. You know, it's an amazing time. If you're here and you have awakened, you know, it's going to take some strength and courage to gear up to study. But you want to get into the studying too, because you want to get to that first shift. When that shift happens, you know, you might get a little boastful. But when that second shift happens, you're going to shut up. You're going to shut up. You ain't going to be yakking no more, because you will have now you're going inside, and everything that all your feeding is going to come from the inside, not the outside. So I know when I hear people yakking, I look at they ain't got to the second shift yet.
Right.
But it is an amazing thing. I know everybody's going to get there. I know some people have already gotten there, and I know there are some that have gone past it. But you know, you all know who you are just from. It's like you can recognize each other from either the eyes or the manner that someone moves or the lack of speech. You know where everybody is, because when you get to a place, you'll start to notice, oh, there's some other people here too. All right. But the key in all of this is study. Times it's like this. Everything that the prophet has written is like a document, and it's written in code. But it ain't difficult if you take the time to study and just read it and turn it over in your head. A light bulb will go on several times. But you got to study it, because the prophet was trying to tell us something. And like most prophets, his message will meet you wherever you are. So if you're wallowing around in your own lower self, it'll meet you there. And if you are, on your way rising to your higher self, it'll meet you there. And if you're at your higher self, it'll meet you there. So, but you always want to be rising higher. So study is a never-ending process. Never ending. And you're going to have several shifts. So if you have one and you think you have arrived, hold on to your seat. Wow. We're going to take our next caller. Caller, did you have something to say, Ralph? All right.
No.
All right.
No.
All right, we're going to take our next caller, caller 215-554. You are live on the air. Please state your affiliation at Northwest America.
Grace and peace. Islam to everybody. This is my appellation is King Betty. Calling from the corporate state known as New Jersey. And I just want to thank you all for breaking the bread and sharing the knowledge. It's been a very, very good session, very uplifting. I wanted to touch on two things real brief. Brother Miz was talking about the technology, and I just wanted to bring up something he and I were going in on last week about our youth. We have some Moorish youth that have very, very, very dynamic minds and incredible capabilities that our public school system is trying to dumb down and trying to tell them that ADD and ADHD and all these different things. And I want to encourage the parents that we have of these young kids. If your child is having problems in school, it's probably because they're a genius. Let me just say that. It's probably because their minds are not behind in the work. They're actually so far ahead, and they're thinking so far outside the box that that system can't contain. See, those teachers who've been taught in that one-dimensional, teaching methods when we live in a 3-, 4-, 5-dimensional world, and these kids see all these different dimensions, and they're trying to tell these kids are crazy, and these kids are brilliant. So if your child is one of those children that are having problems, know that you have a genius on your hands, and you have to start putting more advanced, books and readings into their hands and get their minds thinking more creatively, and teach them to try to master technology instead of having technology master them. And because most people that are so into technology, it's like they're slaves to these phones and these different iPads, when we need to have these kids breaking these things apart. Brother Miz and I were talking about, those robots, and I said to him, I said, brother, I said, if these robots were created by us, I said, we need to figure out how to get into the motherboards and the brains of these things so that when they're coming at us, we can take them, capture them, deprogram them, and reprogram them, and send them right back to the enemy that was attacking us. And it's the same thing that they did in Enemy of the State, where they used the technology that they were using to track Will Smith and Gene Hackman. They flipped it around and turned it and used it and put it in the congressman's home. They turned it and used it and made it their weapon. So we have Moorish children that are capable of mastering these things. I mean, they can remember the cheat codes to all the video games and all the words to the rap songs. They surely can master these things. And these are some of the things that we can do for the future to be prepared, as Brother Miz was saying. The second thing I wanted to say is, as far as there's some Moors out there that are feeling very frustrated, and I think someone alluded to it, feeling out of pocket, feeling like you're ready to give up. And to them I say, hang on. I say, I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. But the reason you're there is because you're out of pocket and you're feeling unfulfilled because you're not where the Creator wants you to be. And you may be in a venue that you were never designed to be in, just trying to survive, which I do understand and understand. However, it might be time to make that shift that Sister Anna E. was talking about. It might be time to, kind of break away from the matrix and do something different. And the last thing I'm going to say is, Sister Raj, I'm going to encourage, those of you who are writers and who have, very, very good writing skills, to interface with Sister Raj so that we can assist her, and I've already volunteered, we can assist her to get that newspaper back up and running. Because the Prophet talked about, a free press being one of our greatest weapons to be able to share knowledge and information. And, I hate to put you on blast like that, Roz, but I'm just trying to, get you some help, because that's something that we need so badly, because we need to put out our own publications and put out the truth rather than, these one-dimensional slanted stories that always make us seem like we're the perpetrators,
You going back, though. You going back.
Oh, man. You know what? I just want to say, well, first and foremost, thank you for calling in. At first, I'm like, man, who is this? But as you was talking, I picked up. King, we're calling in.
I gotta say this. He's talking from way back when I had a newspaper. That's why I said, wait a minute, what's he talking about? When I had that community newspaper before I even knew what I know now or anything about Moorish heritage and history. But but listen to this. I will say this. What the Prophet said, he said you're going to need your own newspaper to shovel yourself out from up under the avalanche of lies heaped upon you daily. So it's
say that.
And I just want to add on. Thanks for adding that. But for those in the meantime, keep in mind, RV Bay Publications is the free press. We appreciate the home base love on that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's out there, but we want to definitely for adding that. But for those in the meantime, keep in mind, RV Bay Publications is the free press. We appreciate the home base love on that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's out there, but we want to definitely take all support for, you know what I mean, making that local, national, and international as far as a tangible format of getting these words out. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Nobody stopped doing their mission or abandoned their life mission. Like, you know what I mean? My salute to you because you kept that going, but in the proper format. This is what, like, people don't understand. Some people do things, you know what I mean, just to do them. Oh, we should do this. And, like, some people do things because that's what they do. You know what I mean? And this is what you do.
Right.
What you do, rvbaypublications.com. Very powerful Moor's website. You know what I mean? MHHS Blog Talk. For now, you know, these are you know, outlets for national and international free press, like you said, which is the most powerful weapon that we have in our hands. And this is why, you know, like Anna E was saying, people should do the due diligence to research and take time to look into the things that we communicate. You know what I mean? Because this is free press. Nobody, your opinions are not going to report or speak on subjects that we speak on, you know what I mean, in their media outlets, which is why we also have an obligation to do this. You know what I mean? And put it out.
No doubt. And Brother Miz, if I just may say one more thing, if I may, I speak from a perspective of, as I'm speaking to the brothers and sisters, I'm speaking to myself. Because I had to sit down and go through 3 of my computers, and I'm finding these books that I wrote. I've written like 5 or 6 books. I only published 1. And I said, wait a minute, hold up. Am I a writer? Wait a minute, I'm a writer. Why am I over here in this lane when I need to be in that lane? I had to give myself a little baby pimp slap. Like, wait a minute. I'm sitting on this information that people need and people are starving. And, yeah, I published 1, but, you know, life and time and, you know, you get misdirected and a year goes by and 2 years. But at the end of the day, I said, wait a minute, I've got to shift back over into this lane that, like you said, Brother Man, it's like some people just do stuff to be doing it, and then some people, like it's not just something that they do, it's something that they are. This is a part of their being. I mean, they sweat and bleed this thing. So, you know, as I speak, I'm not speaking like from a judgmental perspective. I'm talking to myself too. I'm giving my own self a little motivation, you know, to make that shift. But those young people, we can get young people online at a younger age, then they won't go through this floundering and you know, this whole thing of how this European has extended childhood to 18 and 19 and 20 when we're supposed to be grooming these kids at 10 and 11, and by the time they're 13, 14, 15, they're supposed to have these things mastered. They're supposed to be like OGs in the game. Like, you know, Martin Luther King was an OG at 15, graduated high school at 15, and had his master's at 18 and his doctorate at 21. He was, you know, I mean, his parents knew we got to get this kid online like now. We can't wait until he's 18, 19, 20. So let's stop treating these young men and these young women like they're babies when we need to be grooming them with this adult information at a younger age. And a lot of people think their minds aren't ready. They are ready, willing, and able. They're waiting for something more to bite into. They don't want to deal with the little stupid silliness that the public school system has put in front of them. You would be amazed at what these children are capable of, because some of them are in children's bodies, but they are very old souls. They've been here before. They know some things. They don't even know why they know them. And with that, I say peace and Islam.
Yeah,
right.
and you know what? That's real fact. And this is why, even when you look at what they call worship and whatnot, the women, the females, the young women at 16, they were able to inherit and make claim to their inheritance at 16. So when you was mentioning, at 13, 14, 15, they're supposed to be masters. And again,
Right.
like you said, it's the stunning of growth, so that you think you can't do anything or you're not, a part of society till you're 18 type of thing. That's a reverse, a big reverse. And I know you have multiple experience with children, but I know at the same time we witness some of the same children hold more intense and enlightened conversations than some adults.
Say that,
you know what I mean?
brother. Say that.
So, you know what I mean? At the same time. So the youth, and even looking at, and everybody can see it in the youth of their family if they pay some attention to them. Some of them, though, they're just undeniable. They've been here before. You don't even have to second guess it just because of their mannerisms. And there's no way they could be that age. You know what I mean? They old souls return. So like was said before, this is for the young and those who are unborn, those who are yet unborn. That being said, man, thanks for adding on. Salam.
Islam, thank you.
Alrighty. Before we take our next caller, I just want to make an announcement. I got a text that Danielle Napier Cocktail has been freed. He is no longer being held hostage. So that's a wonderful thing. Sister Energy just sent me a text letting me know. She put it in the chat room that he has been liberated and he is no longer being held hostage. However, he is going to have to study and address whatever alleged claims that these modern Europeans are making. So with a mother like Energy, I'm sure as long as he's listening, that's not going to be a problem. I also want to make mention, this Wednesday, we will not be having a physical class tomorrow near Harlem Corporation. We will be doing, because they're doing construction, we will be doing a live vlog, but we will not physically be near Harlem. All right, so make sure and tune in via the Moor's Heritage and History Blog Talk Radio tomorrow at 7:30 only. Do not go to the theater. We will not be there. We will see you back next Wednesday on the 30th.
Yeah. The 30th will be there. Yeah, the next one.
The 30th, we will be there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that, we're going to bring on our next caller, Brother Bakari. Islam.
Greetings.
Wow.
Islam.
I had a little delay there. Gosh, great show tonight.
All right.
Word. Thank you, bro. As
always, I guess I do have a question, and I was going to comment on the traveling issue. I was kind of fearful because I didn't want to jump around too much and get off topic. Earlier when a young lady called in, she made mention of an issue that she had on Facebook with a Moor who was making some comments that in reference to the driving as opposed to traveling issue and driver's license and all of that. And, I was going to get into a long, drawn-out statement about that, but I'm just tired. I'm just tired of dealing with this issue and talking to people about this issue. It's like just some of these individuals aren't ignorant. Some of these people are just slam agents. That's it. And I think that one of the things that people need to start recognizing is that's what's going on. Like in many cases, seems that many of our family. I'm not saying that this is the case with the young lady because I don't know. But, in many cases, it is my opinion, it's just that, an opinion, many of our people just can't fathom that there are actually agents out there in large numbers. It's like it's beyond their scope of, believability, if that's a word, So I think that, people just need to get a grip and, it doesn't matter if they are or if they aren't, because most of us aren't organized any way to do anything about it, other than talk. Like you can't get most of our people to, show up somewhere on time. So it's, the few Moors that are out here that are making a difference, like this show and the Moors on the panel, and some of the other Moors that are, actually being active, big kudos to them, but they're few in number. And, people just have to start feeling it. People just need to, people are going to continue to get their butt kicked. And the only other point that I wanted to make is to now transition from that over to the other point that, point of topic, with Brother Misrahim was talking about the, weaponry and the robots and things of that nature. When these guys, get to the last straw and they start implementing some of these measures, that's when people are going to want to hook up. That's when people are going to want to start taking advantage of resources that they have. And and as a veteran, I can tell you that by that time, a lot of people, it's going to be too late. Because when they strike, it's going to be quick and it's going to be hard. So having said that, my question is in reference to I was dialoguing with Mother Rasomaya recently, and I'm honored to have done so. And I don't know if she's still on the panel or not, because I had to get off and deal with an issue with my son. He fell, but he's all right. But I wanted to ask Mother Anna Eid, did you ever place anything on, or was there like an issue in reference to the state, the corporate state of a given state, making mention of DMV as only a place to issue licenses for those who are doing commerce?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, I was just trying to follow up on an issue that Mother Rasomaya V. brought to my attention, and it was apparently one of the corporate states had made mention by making a statement or drafting something up or writing an article or something to that effect. And I'm just trying to get the specifics on it so that I can add it to my repertoire, so to speak. And it was in reference to one of the corporate states making a statement or some form of fashion of the DMV is only in place to issue licenses to those who are doing commerce.
Well, the United States Code, I think it's 49, is what all of these union states base their motor vehicle program off of. And in that code, it only references commercial driver's license and commercial motor vehicle. And all of these states, they can participate, but what's happening is the state, neither the state or the feds is enforcing this. It is the counties that's enforcing it, which is why, we have to sue them. But there is case law that supports that. There's also something that I read, and I meant to print it, but I didn't get a chance to yet. But there's some case law that's specific to like a lot of individual union states that clearly exempt people who are not engaging in commerce from being required to have a driving instrument or registration. Every one of the union states, they have this in those codes, but what's going to have to happen is, in order to find it, because in the personal property book, there's a few in there, but they have to be in all of them. And so what has to happen is me personally, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be looking for it in quite a few. New Jersey's was in the book, and I think there was a reference to New York. I'm looking for Connecticut, Philadelphia, Delaware, Virginia. All of these union states, they have to have an exemption clause in their motor vehicle statute. Problem is that, instead of that's one thing that we can use, but also, instead of finding workarounds to circumvent an unlawful policy, we need to be enforcing the supreme law of the land. But, and it'll come in time because, when you look at the fact that the feds put out that statement saying that, hey, these identifications that these contractors have been putting out and collecting income from for years is not valid. And then we're not accepting them.
That's what I was talking about. I just want to interject. He's talking about what you read.
Is that what you're talking about? I didn't think that's what you were talking about, but...
No, I didn't have a... Could you repeat that? Mother Ross?
Yeah, and if you would, you're talking about what you read. I think we read it in class, and it recently came out where they were saying that the driver's license instrument is not for cities to be making fines off of and writing tickets to people for.
Right.
Yeah. That's it.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah. It's only for commercial activity, but certainly most of us who study and listen to the show already know that it's commercial activity because you guys have done so much research for us being the masses. So we're already aware of that. But in terms of what I was trying to focus on was specifically, I wanted to know if, in fact, there was one of these so-called corporate states, or rather corporate states because they're not so-called, that's actually what they are, but they are a corporate state. But I wanted to know if, in fact, there was one that had either in writing or one of their officials, so-called officials, had made a statement, a public statement, because I wanted to then know where that is so I can get that and I can add that to the repertoire that I already have.
Because as far as the right to travel, you're speaking, correct?
Right, exactly, because I exercise that right. I'm not a member of a temple though I would like to be, but there's not one, available here. And I only mention that as as it pertains to the situation and not having individuals in close proximity that I could depend on for fellowship and study. But I exercise that right, and it is difficult, it is stressful, and things of that nature. So that's why I wanted to know so that I can add that to the repertoire.
I think maybe what I was saying you're referring to is the article that I read from one of the state governors where they were basically reprimanding the Department of Motor Vehicle for becoming pseudo collection agencies for these union states, and they basically said that that's not their function.
Yes, that sounds like it. Yes, that sounds like it is.
All right.
Is that on RV Bay or Facebook or?
No. You know what? I passed out a couple copies in class. I read it in the Wednesday class. And I think I was supposed to send a copy to Roz. I was supposed to leave a copy with Roz to put up, but I don't think I did. Right, Roz? I didn't. I forgot to leave a copy, didn't I?
Well, we need to put it up for the people who are searching for it.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll scan it in, and I'll scan it in. And send it to Roz, and I'll also send it to. I think I have your email, right, Brother Bakari?
I hope so. I don't know.
Well, I got it. You sent it to me. I have it. What I'll do is I'll send it. When I scan it in, I'll send it to you.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. I don't have any other questions.
I just thought this would be a great opportunity because I'm working on putting out something. I'm calling it the final frontier. The law of that. The final frontier in regards to travel versus commerce. But it's funny. We dug up this old letter from Attorney General back in 19. I think it's 03. I can hardly see what the letter is. So 1903 or 02. And so I had read it. It's real short. It was a Attorney General writing to someone. At that time, they called the driver's license instrument today was called the chauffeur's license. Same thing, though, same concept. And so someone had written to the Attorney General asking that if I am a driver, a chauffeur, whatever, the vehicle that I use was a family vehicle, and if someone else in my family uses that vehicle, do they need to have the license as well? And he told them back and said, no, not at all, because I'm not going to read the whole thing. But he said, in the end, he said, basically, he ran out, that it's for people who wish to do commerce and want to make themselves for hire as a driver, and their vehicle an employee. So you're either going to be for hire and your vehicle is employee, or you're going to do this for wages where you work for someone else who pays you to drive. It's not the same as travel. And then he said, so in the end, he said, there's no requirement that the owner of a motor vehicle shall procure a license to run the same, nor is there any requirement that any other person shall do so unless he proposes to become a chauffeur or a person considering an automobile as an employee for hire or wages. Now, that's how it's supposed to be. This being in 1902 when the states were running constitutionally as a republic as opposed to what they're doing now, corporations taking over with policy enforcement. That is what we'll call de jure or proper. So if you wish to be a chauffeur, if you wish to be a driver, then it tells you in here that you are to just register yourself as a driver with the Secretary of State, and your car with a description of what it is. That's it, and that's all. If you wish to, what they've done in this white prophet says, truth and falsehood is strange hidden, is they put before you that everybody, every household has to, every person has to be a driver. Every person has to register their car as an employee for wages. This is what they propose. It's a lie. It's a straight out, flat out lie. And all of the case law supports that it is. All of them is to do the study. And then what he was saying is that, and then when you go back to who really, the Department of Transportation, who put this program together, only for those who are driving or doing commerce, right? It was never meant to be spread out to the common people.
That's right.
It never, ever, ever. It's terrible. And I think with this information, we could turn this thing out overnight.
Yep. Yes, we could.
Well, shucks, yeah, I totally agree. I really do. And the only other thing that I can say, I just had a thought. I had a conversation about a week ago with another Moor, and we were talking about the same issue that young lady who called in on mentioned in terms of Moors. And there was one individual on the I'm not going to mention his appellation. I wouldn't give him my time. I wouldn't give him time of day, actually. So at any rate, he was on this YouTube platform. I think it was, one of the House of Consciousness type videos. And he's a Moor, Fez, and he was talking about the license. Moors should have licenses, and anyone who talks about not having a license is talking about I think, and I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect that's sovereign citizen talk. And so my reply to the brother when he mentioned this to me, because I try to not watch as much of that as I possibly can, it just ticks me off. But so my reply that if this individual is in fact a Moor who has proclaimed and declared his nationality, the mere fact that he would have gone through that process, and I'm just mentioning this. Let me preface this so that no one gets lost. What I'm about to say is in terms of logic and reasoning. So, if this individual is in fact a Moor who proclaimed and declared his nationality, carries a card from some Moorish institution or some body of Moors, has paperwork, a judicial notice and proclamation, name correction, etc. That paperwork, if you read it, that paperwork in and of itself would go directly against his assertions and his statements. Because how could you be a Moor, nationalized, proclaimed, or and I use the term nationalized loosely, but proclaimed and declared on this continent called Northwest Amexem, stating that you're Aboriginal/Indigenous, or Aboriginal and Indigenous, rather, and now you are putting individuals who are descendants of colonists in a position to tell you what to do. Unlawfully, not just to tell you what to do, but rather unlawfully after you've gone through a few hundred years of being displaced mentally. And, so that's just something, I wanted to share in terms of a conversation that I had, and that's why I don't give a lot of these people time of day. I just don't. I just don't give them time of day. Islam.
All right, and Islam. Woo.
Definitely. Shout out to Brother Bakari with that.
All right.
Or table talk, right? Let them know as well what you're doing right now as far as interviewing Moors.
Say again?
I said, if you will, let Moors know what you're doing as far as the Moorish table talk.
Yes. Thank you. Wow. I'm currently doing a series called Moor Table Talk, More Than Perception. And what I've done is I've had the pleasure to get Moors to share their perception or their perspective as well on various topics. And currently with this series, it's on Moors and perception, and I generate a series of questions that that I pose to Moors. And it has brought me a lot of enlightenment, has been something that I feel fortunate in that I've had Moors from this show take part in. And, it's something that I'm looking at doing for quite a while. And so it's on a YouTube channel. You can simply type in my appellation, Bokhari Bottle Bay, and it'll come up with the playlist. And I just hope that, some folks can view it and enjoy it and use it for study as well, because I try to add information that is for study purposes. So I'll add slides, so it's not just individuals where you can hear their voice, but I'll also add information as well. So hopefully I can help in some way in waking some people up and just getting them to think a little bit. So thank you for sharing that.
All right.
Thank you
Well,
for sharing that.
And I'm going to be sending you what you want me to send you. Maybe I'll contact you tomorrow since we're not going into New York, so I'll have some additional time during the day, and I'll contact you with that. All right?
Oh, Islam. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, all right. Thank you so much, Brother Bokhari. And let's see. We have caller 413-310. Caller 413-310. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Mexico.
Hello.
Hey.
Islam Moor. Islam.
This is Islam.
Islam. I wanted to start off by just giving a little info. I don't know. I guess came upon a film called Saints and Strangers. Touches on how modern Europeans were coming over here like 1600s, stuff like that, and actually how they were actually on the slave boats, and going to the etymology of slave being Slavic, and showed a couple of things on how they were talking about how they were corporations and writing writs and declarations and all that good stuff while they're on the ships while other people were dying, coming over here and dealing with the Aboriginals, our people, the Moors in this land. Again, that's Saints and Strangers. However, I also wanted to get like an analysis from the forum on my presentation on when I go in the meeting room next Monday here near the Springfield Corporation, the old territories of Massachusetts State Republic. Just wondering if you would agree to that analysis and get a little constructive criticism from the forum.
What is it that you want to know?
Well, I just how I'm going to present myself. I feel like I have the jurisdiction, the right words, and basically just dismissing
why
the
do you
case.
feel like you have the jurisdiction and the right words?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but jurisdiction does mean right words, correct?
That is true.
Okay.
So why do you feel like you have them?
Oh, just studying and taking advice. Well, studying clips, studying my words from the Black's Law, studying the American Constitution, and going from there. I studied with another Moor. We're the only two Moors, active Moors in the area. We don't know about any others, but we kind of study together here and there. Yeah, I'd say he's pretty studious as well. I don't feel like I study enough due to my schedule, but I'm definitely trying as much as I can, grabbing up books and what have you. Actually, Ms., I appreciate you for your knowledge. I actually went out and got that book you were talking about, The Light of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And I know someone was speaking about how like there's 12 different salts. You know, everyone has like different salts based on their zodiac sign. I found that one, and I got that. So, you know, instead of just learning law, I'm actually studying myself as well. But again, I just wish I could study a little bit more. But my presentation basically, I was sent out a ticket via the Postal Service from a highwayman, and it was basically the silly charges were I failed to identify and so-called speeding. Now, I sent out, of course, my name correction and proclamation. I sent out I can't remember the next writ.
Did you rebut the claim?
Yeah. And did you look at the failure to identify page in all the day publications?
Because
I did.
See, you're saying that you sent out the name correction and proclamation. I don't know why people do that, because that's not an answer.
No. I just sent that just as like basically, I don't know, just to start off, like just saying who I really am, and not the.
Okay, where that goes is the first paragraph of your rebuttal.
Yep,
okay.
Just say it.
That's the first paragraph of your rebuttal. That's not the
Okay.
proclamation and name correction. That doesn't need to go to them.
Okay, appreciate that.
That's like sending a family heirloom to Walmart. Their corporation. You don't do that.
Right. Okay. I probably. Right. I pulled probably just about every writ except for the writ of mandamus. Excuse me. Correct me if I pronounce that wrong. And quo warranto, which after I pushed out those writs already, that's when I came upon quo warranto, and I was like, man, I could have sent that out probably first, and then follow through with everything else.
First of all, you're sending the quo warranto. You don't send the quo warranto, the agreement of jurisdiction quo warranto, just this document. You just don't send that out alone. You got a claim. You was presented with a claim. You have to rebut that claim. So what you have to do is you need to write a rebuttal. Included with that rebuttal, you need to attach the agreement of jurisdiction, and you need to send them back their instrument. That's the protocol.
Instrument as in the driver's license instrument?
No.
Or the ticket?
They gave you some sort of charging document, a ticket or something. They're making a demand. They're putting a claim on the record. All right?
Right.
Well, they are. They're putting a claim on the record. You haven't rebutted.
Okay.
You haven't rebutted their claim.
What I actually did, now it's coming back to me, along with the name correction and the proclamation, I also sent the ticket dismissal along with the writ of discovery. And when they never actually answered to those writs, I sent them the actually it was a handbill of the dismissal, the writ of dismissal. Demand of dismissal.
When you sent the writ of discovery, what were you asking for?
Their jurisdiction. It's the same writ that's on RV Bay. That's why I got all my writs.
All right. The writ of discovery that's on there is to be tailored to whatever your situation is. Now, before we had the affirmative jurisdiction called warrant, so we were sending out the writ of discovery.
Right.
But you need to send a writ of discovery asking them to disclose to you all the relevant information regarding that supports their claim. You have to see that.
Exactly. Right.
So with
right.
That's
that writ that I sent out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I say you have to write a rebuttal, see, these people, they have documented using valid terms that give anyone who sees this document the impression that they are government. You have to write your cause of action, what happened, your deposition, in your words. What happened, it must be blunt to the point, devoid of any titles or any appearance of authority, because, for example, if you was traveling on your ancestral estate or you were traveling on the land and a car comes behind you, driving or traveling very fast, you move over to get out of the way, and they come right behind you. You was just forced off the road. Then they come up behind you. Okay, then
actually,
they
the
come up
situation was
to
go ahead.
All right, but see, here's the thing. You need to use the right language. That's what jurisdiction is all about. So then they usually will come up to the right side of your personal property. Did you call it personal property? Did you call it a motor vehicle? All right? And then they asked you for your personal property. Did you say personal property? Or did you say they asked me for my driver's license and registration? Because, see, the use of driver's license and registration means that, okay, you're doing commerce. What's the problem?
Oh, yeah, I know that not to deal with any of that language.
All right, but wait a minute. The point I'm making is you need to write a rebuttal, and it needs to be in blunt language, devoid of any any appearance of them being government. The person that came to, and we've been all mentally conditioned to do this. Now, the person that came to the right side of your personal property, your property, and then made a demand of your personal property under threat. Why was it under threat? Because they had a gun on their side. That's a highwayman. Did you know their name?
The person did abbreviate his first name and then put his last name on there. However,
and I'm willing to bet that you put in and I'm willing to bet that most people, maybe not you, because I'm not sure if you wrote a rebuttal yet, most people will put that person's name in there as though they know who just attacked them. You see how convoluted it is? You're saying somebody attacked you, but you know their name, rank, and serial number. So you have to call them exactly. The person that came to the right side of your property was a complete stranger.
Right. The situation that happened was that...
Look, they appeared to be in some sort of uniform, disguised as something you know not what.
Right, though, he was off duty, right? And the situation was I was taking my stepdaughter to school.
Look now. See, you're all up in wrong words. He was off duty. Off duty from what? Serving ice cream? How do you even know that?
Right.
This is a stranger. How do you know a stranger was off duty? How do you know the stranger that attacks you? That's like saying, look, I was walking through the park and somebody came up and pulled a gun on me and demanded my personal property and stabbed me in my left side because I didn't give it to them. But I know that their name was John J. Allen, and they was off duty, and and they worked for the city of Philadelphia, and they were in cruiser number car 34567. What are you talking about? That's not a stranger. That's somebody you know.
Right. You caught me slipping, Mother. When I describe the situation, I speak exactly of that. I don't know who the person was, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and I was, giving the person a piece of my mind in sign language, and they flashed. Oh no! I wasn't flipping a bird. I wasn't flipping a bird. I was like,
Okay, where were you making this declaration?
Well, it's gonna again. I'm sorry.
Where were you saying this? You're saying that this is what you said. Where was you saying this?
Oh no, when I was speaking to like family members or what have you, just describing the situation. I was saying I don't know who this person is. I don't know who it is. They're flashing this thing, in front of me. I don't know what that is. And then when I got out the vehicle, when I got out the conveyance to drop off my daughter, the person came up to me and was like, "Oh, show me your ID, your driver's license. You're going to getting arrested." And I told him, "Hey, back up off me." I was like, "Hey, get out my face and back up off me," and not those exact words. And I let my daughter go. I got back in the vehicle. I started to back up. The person rushed me, opened up the door, and I gave him a little funny look. I just backed up again and took off. And then like a week or some change later, the instrument came in, the bill of attainder. Now, I just wanted to get.
How? Okay, how did they get this information to you? How did they even know your affiliation, where to mail it to, any of this stuff?
The person didn't know anything initially. However, this person who was a highwayman, he's how these so-called educational institutions have these so-called highwaymen in the institutions throughout the day. Now, this person was also dropping off his child, and I guess maybe he ran the registration plate on the conveyance. I'm not sure how.
That could have been your mother's car.
It's actually my woman's vehicle. It wasn't mine. So they ran the plates, and maybe because we have the same insurance, but that's the only thing I can come up with on how this person got the name XREL.
You know what? It's 12:23. We got one more caller, and this sounds like an extensive discussion. So what I'm going to ask you is, what is it that you are asking right now that you would like in any type of information on? What can we assist you with right now with the limited time that we have?
I just want to go over what I'm gonna say in front of the magistrate, and just want to get a quick analysis, constructive criticism, and let me go. And don't beat me up too much.
All right, we got about 4 minutes, and we still got one more call.
Whenever the name is said, just want to say for the record, on the record, let the record show. I come in special appearance for this matter in the suit. For the record, on the record, let the record show. I, Wire, Ian Bay, Moorish American National, improper persona. Excuse me for the stuttering.
Stop. What is that supposed to mean if you're saying that to a magistrate? And
letting them know I'm an American national.
Before you even answer that, in your 4th edition Black's Law Dictionary, you have one, right? The 4th edition Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary. Okay. Did you look up the definition of inferior court?
I believe I came across it, yes, throughout all the other courts under that definition.
Check that, page 918, definition of inferior court.
Mm-hmm.
And keep that in mind, because it's limited to 5. You know what I mean? But
say it again. Limited what?
In Article 3, Section 2. You know what I mean? All cases where they're alleging the state is a party, whatever. That's first and foremost jurisdiction. And then if you're not dealing with the Supreme Court, it's an inferior court. So keep in mind the definition of inferior court, page 918. Hold on. And then keep in mind that even the Supreme Court is inferior to Moor's court sessions in international law.
One thing I said I didn't put out. Okay. One thing I wanted to put out was that I did sit in the Clearfield doctrine with that writ of discovery. So that's another thing.
You know what?
Also, I just want to say this too. I just want to say this real quick. My fault. Like, those are reference points you need to digest. But the fact that, and this is all due respect, because this is a lesson for a lot of Moors to learn. It doesn't matter what we say right now.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that right now you don't know means that doesn't mean you can't get prepared, but it's nothing that we're going to tell you that's going to have you prepared by Monday, like less than 7 days, because it's 7 days in the creation. So you got to at least have 7 days to build, and we can go so in depth on this conversation. You can't give us 1 hour. We got hours and hours of blogs.
You don't even have 1 hour. You got 1 minute.
Okay, let me finish. Let me finish. I'm going to say all that.
Listen to what I'm saying. You got less than 1 minute. You're not going to get it.
Why don't you send an email?
Okay, the last part is what I wanted to kick in, because it's something that Brother Taj was actually saying with GS Nature, is that once we finish saying all that, and at the end, basically with the nationality being brought up, it brings up a federal question. Basically, eliminating their jurisdiction.
Diversity of citizen, he just told you, Article 3, Section 1, 2, and 3. That's what he's telling you. Diversity of citizenship is what it brings up. And also, if it's a controversy, it's in 3 as well, between a state versus you, then it can't be heard in that court. That's why I meant for you to go to 3. So
exactly why I'm trying to use that as well to dismiss the case.
Stand on it until the cows come home.
Yeah, and they could say something like, they could ask you something like, where do you live? What would you say?
I live in North America.
My ancestral state.
Right. So
it's my ancestral state. And then if they ask me for a certain address, I plan on hitting them with multiple addresses across the country, across the land. Right. Well, they have that one, but I can also say I have multiple other addresses.
No,
I live on. This is. Just to hit them off with a counter.
No federal question talking like that. You would automatically be right back in the quasi jurisdiction.
This is true. Well, this is true, but this is just because you boys are asking me this. But I don't plan on ending. After I say because my nationality raises a federal question, you boys are asking me this. But I don't plan on ending. After I say because my nationality raises a federal question, I'm not going to completely say
If I was you, what I would do, if you want to know what we have to say,